single burner griddle combination made by Lodge. It's a modern piece. I found it at a garage sale and it was in pretty yucky condition. Yes, that's an official term, yucky. And I just wanted to show you how it looks after having spent several days in the Easy Off oven cleaner. And you can kind of see how this stuff just comes off. Look at that. Just row after row just beautifully comes off. Get you close up there. So this was all that yucky stuff, the carbonized coating of food and years worth of use. So I'm going to go ahead and scrub this up and we'll see how it looks. Get it out of the bag here. You want to be pretty careful with this stuff. You don't want to just be having it dripping all over the place. I'm going to get the hot water going and just start rinsing the nasty away. Just going to use a little bit of hot water. Wow, look at that side. And then I'm going to turn it to cold water just to keep the flash resting from happening. I'm going to use my nylon scrubber and just sort of work at it a little bit. Now, if some areas are really stuck on, I'm going to use one of those 0000 stainless steel wool pads. But it seems to be coming off okay just with this. So we'll see how we do. All right, I think it came out really well. Really pleased with this. That black crud just really sloughed right off and came out beautiful. There are still a few areas, and I'll show you here, where some of the black crud is still on. And I might want to work on that a little bit more. Now, if I wanted to go ahead and leave it just as it is and start seasoning it, this is totally usable. But I just want to give it another little run here and see if I can't get some of that off. But just came out beautiful. And here's another little area where you can see the black there. Still some of that on there and in this corner. But you wouldn't have guessed when you saw it at the garage sale unless you knew that this could be restored. I totally see why they might have thought, if they didn't know any better, that this pan was unusable. It's just thickened, and the black crud was just all over it. And couldn't really scrape it off with your fingernail or anything, and they just sort of thought, oh, this is not really any good anymore. But these are absolutely restorable, and I've learned a lot lately about how to restore these, so I'm really glad that I found this. So I'm going to go ahead and give it another spray with the Easy Off. As I said, I could just leave it just like it is and start seasoning it, but I'm just picky. And what I'm using is the Easy Off here in the yellow can. It's the heavy duty. I did try the fume free and it didn't do as good a job as the one here in the yellow can. So this is pretty much, for me, what I've discovered is the way to go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this piece inside of a garbage bag, spray down. You can do the whole surface, which is what I initially did. This time I might just focus on these areas that I want to work on a little bit more. You're going to seal up the bag, just twist it up and keep the bag closed. If it has access to air, it's not going to really work as well. And just leave it until I'm ready to give it another scrub down and see how we do. So we'll take a look at it when it's ready to go. I'm just going to give you a quick look at how I do this. Normally I do this outside in the patio, but the lighting is better in here for demonstration purposes. You always want to use some gloves, some protective eyewear. You don't want to be breathing this in. So This is kind of how I'm going to do it. You're going to shake your can up and make a nice thick coating all over. But I'm going to first kind of focus on those areas that I was a little concerned about. Let's see. The can says to get about 12 inches back, but here we go. I'm sort of giving it a lighter coating everywhere else and a thicker coating where I want to work on. I want to get a little along the edges here. All right. I'm going to close this up. And get it back out on the patio. So we've just come out of the second round of Easy Off, and I'm really happy with how it's come out. Most of the black that was on there is gone. There's still a little bit, but I'm really not concerned about it. I'm just going to leave it be. Looks brand new. It's beautiful. Again, we've got just a little bit left up there on the corner and a little bit up here, but I'm not concerned about that. So the next step then is to go ahead and soak this in a vinegar bath, and that's going to be 50% white vinegar to 50% water. And that's a really good rust removal remover. You can soak it in there if it was rusted, and I would, scrub it off with a 0000 steel wool pad. But I'm also going to use it after I use lye every time, because it's going to help draw some of that out and make the pan safe for use. My pan has been soaking about 35 to 40 minutes in this vinegar bath. You can see the water's kind of discolored a little bit. And I couldn't find a pan or a container to soak this in, so unfortunately I had to use my sink, which is not my preferred way of doing it. But these two little handles here sort of made it difficult. Gonna rinse it off really well. Ugh, smells that vinegar bath. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a little bit of soap, and I'm gonna go ahead and scrub this down really well. It's probably one of the few times I'll ever really use soap, but now's the time to do that. So I'm gonna get in and scrub this up really well and do both sides, and then we'll see what we're looking at. I wash this out with cold water because I noticed that it helps with the flash rusting. That's where it's all bare, so when you get it to this point, and it can just start rusting immediately. You get this little orange haze on it, the flash rusting. So I always like to try to use cold water when I do this when it's bare. It kind of helps prevent that a little bit, which is not the case. I would not wash it with cold water if I were just using it. Only at this point would I do that. So I'm going to heat up my oven a little bit, and I'm going to dry this with a towel and then dry it more in the oven, and we'll start seasoning. So I'm now working on seasoning this. I'm getting all along the edges with my melted oil with a silicone brush, making sure I get it all in here. Now I use Crisco shortening. I don't like to season with an oil I would not cook with personally. So I'm just getting all around the edges where my rag would not work it in to make sure that I've gotten all of that. And I've checked at some Restoration Society sites and some popular forums, and it seems that the Crisco shortening is really the preferred method by those. I know a lot of people use the crusty and then of course the flaxseed oil, but I just go with the standard recommendation here, and it's always worked well for me so far, and it worked well for my family, so why mess with something that works, right? So I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to oil up the other side, and then I'm going to wipe it down really good to make sure that it's fairly dry before I put it in, and I'm going to bake it for about an hour at 350 to 400, which is the recommended temperature to use for Crisco shortening, and then we'll have a look at it. So here's a look at the pan after 3 seasoning sessions, and I think it came out really well. Nice smooth surface, it looks really good, it's even. Flip it on over, you can see the other side. I think it's going to be a great user piece, and the little spots where it was a little bit black left just seasoned right over it, so it didn't really cause a problem at all visually, and certainly not functionally. So there's a good look at how I restore a pan and turn something from crusty to trusty.